Gain staging. What is it? And how to do it? In this video, which is part of my Through the Door series, I'm going to explain what gain staging is and how you can set it up. There's a few different ways to gain stage, and some people will prefer one method over another. Gain staging is one of the easiest and most crucial tasks when it comes to music production, yet it's very often overlooked. And if you don't gain stage, it may become more difficult to get a good sounding mix. So make sure you make time to set this up properly. It only takes a minute, and will save you a lot of time and effort later on. So, what is gain staging? Gain staging is the procedure of getting a healthy signal flow within your door. The whole point of gain staging is to make sure that you're not clipping anywhere in the chain. Now, I could start talking about analog versus digital headroom, floating point, etc. But that's for another video. Anyway, you don't need to know all that in order to gain stage properly. Basically, gain staging used to be done very differently back in the day. And I think that is part of the reason why there's so much confusion around it today. Back then, avoiding noise was a crucial part of the gain staging process. In modern day doors, however, this is no longer an issue. So today we gain stage very differently. What's important is that you keep your levels down from the very first source, into the next, and the next until it ends up in the master channel. What really matters is that we don't clip the signal anywhere. It doesn't matter if your mix reaches -6 decibels, or -3. As long as it's peaking well below 0 decibels, you should be safe. Right. So let's dive right in. I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible. Select an empty project. Right, now let's add an instrument. I'll just quickly add some chords so that we have something to play around with. First thing to note is there are three main places to adjust the volume: the mixer, the channel, and in the instrument itself. A lot of people tend to forget about the gain levels in the instrument. As I said, it's important to reduce the volume at the source to avoid clipping, and the synth is what's generating the sound. Note: if you're recording using a microphone or some other gear to record, then make sure your levels are healthy there as well. Some professionals like to increase the volume in the channel all the way up to maximum for all instruments, and then just focus on the mixer and the synths themselves. The most important thing is the source, which in this case is the synth itself, and the signal level when it reaches the master. Let's look at the instrument we have loaded. Note that there's a master volume knob here. Every synth should have a master output like this somewhere on it. Watch what happens when I turn this up too far. That's what clipping sounds like. You can also visually see it here. This is what we want to avoid at all cost. It's possible to clip just a little bit, without even noticing it. The thing to remember is this effect is cumulative, meaning that the more elements you have in your mix, the worse it will tend to get. It's very important to make sure that we're not clipping anywhere. The best way to make sure of that is to always turn down those knobs and faders, and always mix low. In other words, gain stage. I usually turn down the levels on every single element so that it's hitting around -18 decibels on the master. It doesn't have to be exactly -18, anywhere from -15 decibels to -20 will usually be fine. By doing this, I know my input levels are good, and I can adjust the fader on the mixer to get the mixing right, without having to worry about any potential clipping. Remember, it's much better to prevent clipping at the source right away, instead of trying to figure out what's causing the mix to sound bad later on. If you want to, you can load up a metering plugin on the master on to make it easier to see what's going on. There's a lot of free plugins out there that will do the job nicely. I tend to use Span, which is also a free plugin. I'll leave a link in the description below, so that you can head over there and download it if you want to. Okay. Now let's add another synth, and make some pads. Do the same thing we did before. Make sure the output volume in the synth does not clip by turning it down so that it reaches -18 decibels in span. It's a very dynamic sound, so you won't be able to hit exactly -18. This is close enough. Again, it doesn't matter if you aim for -18, or even -12. The whole idea is to give ourselves a safety net to make sure we're not clipping. Keep doing this for all your elements in your arrangement. Every time you add a new instrument, make sure you gain stage it. The exception is of samples and loops. Those should be left at the default level in the channel. We can adjust the levels for these in the mixer. If you feel that the volume is way too low, just turn up your monitors. Alternatively, you can put a limiter on the master in order to give yourself some volume, but make sure that you place your metering plugin before the limiter on your master channel. If you do choose to do this, remember to turn it off before rendering out the final mix for mastering. Unless of course you intend to do the mastering in the mix. Well, that's it for the gain staging. I could talk a lot more about this, but I'm trying to keep this short, straight to the point and simple as possible. Make sure you watch the other videos in this Through the Door series, where I will be talking about other elements of the music production process. I am Mike from Method E Music. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more Ableton tutorials.